All right, everyone. My clock says 2:00. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this afternoon. So grateful that each and every one of you are with us on today, joining us for another wonderful afternoon of learning with APNA. We are aligning with our mission statement to empower agencies to grow and succeed through education and collaboration. And to that end, we have the one and only Peter on with us today. Peter is so well known for his expertise in achieving outstanding outcomes within high net worth environments. He's an author, he's a business owner, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So we're extremely grateful to have him on with us today. If you have questions just off the top of your head that you came here to get answered, you can go ahead and drop those in the Q&A, and we'd be happy to answer them at the conclusion of the webinar. But without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get ready to turn this over to Peter so that he can give us all the things. Peter, we'll turn it into your hands. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Erica. And thank you to Erica, Kelly, and APNA for inviting me to join in on this webinar. APNA is one of the groups that I always say that the rest of private service should be modeling themselves after. A lot of industries or associations have given it a try, and as far as the higher echelons of private service, and not to belittle anything that the amazing nanny worlds do, but there's not a whole lot that governs house managers, estate managers, and the such. So thank you all for being an advocate for a better industry. This is what makes us all better. So for those of you who don't know me, brief introduction. My name is Peter Van Ryder. I'm founder and CEO of Estate Management Solutions, and we are a boutique luxury consulting firm based in Dallas, Texas. As a dear friend of mine, Latricia Friend, loves to hear me say, is that many years ago, I lost my service heart for the principal, but I found it for the professional. And that is what really has driven my why in recent years, is helping cultivate the professional so that way we can see a better private service. The only way we're going to do that is if people are asking better questions and just being more professional in their behavior. And I think part of what we are going to talk about today is the importance that agencies also play in that role. Is we, as the agencies, as that intermediary in between the luxury home and the professional, we're the ones to bridge that gap. And we have to be asking the tough questions to the principals, and we need to be asking the tough questions to the professionals as well. That is what's going to lead us through a better industry. So ask the questions that make you uncomfortable and advocate for the professional. I always say, don't take the jobs that you're compromising on. And we'll go into all of that. So I wanted to first start out with, and I know many of you will already know this, but I thought it important to kind of bring this into context as to the market that you're going to be catering to. And we have that, here we go. Let me get my keyboard active here. Perfect. So of course, when we're looking at the family advisor, the multifamily office, single family office, and the wealth managers, this is how they're breaking down the wealth categories. We have the mass affluent from 100,000 to 1 million. We have the high net worth that are in between the 1 to 5 million standpoint. A majority of the nanny agencies out there are already working with these two levels of clientele. Some of you may already be transitioning into the very high net worth arena, where we have the $5 to $30 million in liquid and investable assets. We have ultra high net worth, which is 30 million or more, and then our centimillionaires and our billionaires. Now, one thing we need to be careful of is that while this is a great way to identify our principals and break them up into market segments, the principals are not excited about these titles. Many times have I been on phone calls with them, and I've trained myself to avoid this terminology because I could see the reaction, and it's usually a little uncomfortable for them to acknowledge their status. But their status is, it's factual, and there's a lot of psychology that comes with it. There's a lot of idiosyncrasies that come with it. And there's a lot of expectations that come with being in one of these market segments. But what I really wanted to first focus on with these market segments are the numbers. And while this webinar is about making that transition from those first two into a broader arena, let's take a look at these numbers and how they may actually impact your bottom line. So the mass affluent of all of these high net worth individuals, the mass affluent take up 90% of that market. So you, as a nanny agency owner or a smaller agency, you're probably already catering to this market. So you've got a solid foundation. These are your first resources. The high net worth individual is 7%. So these first two segments are taking up 97% of the market that you're going to be targeting. Well, you're already there. So that's the great news. We still have the top three: very high net worth at 2%, ultra high net worth at less than 1%. And then of course, those topper echelons, not even barely a tenth of a percent. I mean, these numbers are negligible. So you are looking at potentially increasing your share by a whopping 3%. Whoa. Meaning it's not a huge increase. And there I want you to keep these numbers in mind as we go through and we talk about some of the other obstacles that you may end up facing. So first, of course, what do they expect? What they expect, and this is what they're going to tell you they expect, and this is something you're already used to doing as an agency owner, as somebody who caters to our market segments. You're already used to hand-holding your clients through everything. You're hand-holding them through hiring. You're hand-holding them through how to navigate childcare, how to navigate having someone in their home, how to navigate releasing control of the kids to another individual and not be impacted by jealousies. Well, you're already doing that. Now, what I want you to get ready for to change is absolutely nothing, because that is going to stay consistent. It may even become a little bit more demanding and handholding. These principals, they have high expectations. They typically expect a high level of service, the personalized attention, and that can be very demanding. They have privacy concerns. The high profile, the high net worth have a target on their back. They don't like hearing it. They don't like talking about, but the reality is once you become high profile or high net worth, you are a target for those individuals who are either awestruck by the celebrity or they see the money that can be earned through being in association with these individuals, which is something that we struggle with in the luxury market. Is the agencies that we find, that we commonly call them resume slingers, is that they are the fill 'em and bill 'em agency. They charge really cheap. They just throw resumes and see what sticks. Well, it's not going to work with these individuals. Sometimes it will work once or twice, but eventually they come around and they realize it. Another problem they have is decision making. They like their decisions to be firm, well-educated, or well-informed. And a lot of times when they make a decision, there's no looking back on that decision. You've got family dynamics involved. Ultra high net worth individuals don't even know who to trust. Sometimes when you have that much money, who's really your friend and who's your friend for the money? So this is what they're going to say they expect. But in reality, what they're going to expect from you and from all other things and the professional that you put in with them is the entire thing. Your job is to make sure that this iceberg and these expectations don't cause a Titanic effect to your professionals that you place. It is going to be on you to help navigate those expectations, set clearer boundaries, and help educate the principal as to why their expectations do not meet what the professional can do. This is something that I encounter regularly, and this is something that I coach every one of my clients on, is that nobody out there is going to love your business as much as you do, and nobody out there is going to love your family as much as you do. It's just a simple fact. This is a job to the professional, whether it's in their office or in their home, it's still a job. So draw those lines. I've had principals come back to me after their candidate left and said, "Oh my God, Peter, you need to go track down this person. They left and they never returned the computer or the house keys." It's like, really? I didn't realize I was a private investigator. Did you know what their address was? Did you get their updated address when they moved to your area? Oh no, we didn't do that. Okay. Well, as an agency, there's a lot of things that we have to step in and remind our principals of. They didn't get basic information. So what did I do? I started implementing policies and procedures that sent detailed information to the principal before onboarding. Here's the I-9. Here's the W-4. Here's this tidbit of information. Make sure you're gathering this. This is proper HR procedure. If you need any more questions or you have any more details, here's links to GTM, homework solutions, and other resources for you to gather and talk to professionals that specialize in those areas. So, and by the way, it didn't end well with that particular principal because I had to tell them, I don't know where they are. I've emailed them 3 times and they're not responding to me either. They still blame me. And that's okay. I was a private service professional for 2 decades before I started doing this. I've been married twice. I'm used to taking the blame. It's okay. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody of you out there, but so moving on to the pain points that you're going to experience. Your gray and your blacklists. They're going to exist. I have mine. Every agency out there has a gray or blacklist that they maintain. I started by calling it my brown list, but I was afraid of how that would be perceived if that ever got out. Oops. So, but you need to know the principles that are having that revolving door that might be mistreating their employees. So keep your ear to your local market and know what principals are doing what. Keep an eye on those job postings that are coming through on a regular basis and see which ones are being posted over and over and over. Those are the ones that go on my gray list because I want to ask some more questions. Another one of your pain points is going to be the time to cost ratio, which we'll talk about in just a second. There's also the professionals in our industry, and I was one, so I can confidently say this, is that the professionals are going to be just as time demanding as the principals. I love the professionals that I work with. I love this industry, but this industry does occasionally breed a few prima donnas that they believe I'm so amazing at doing this that you agency need to treat me with the utmost respect. And that's very interesting and also an orange flag for me is you're acting like a principal, not a professional right now. I also say that we hear this all the time from the professionals. Oh my God, I see this job posted by several resumes. Trust me, none of us like the multi-agency listings. And in the next slide, I'm gonna give you a tip on maybe how to avoid and better manage the multi-agency listings. Some principals want to cast that wide net, but it never works out well. So put some policies and procedures in place that'll help you avoid it. The time warp effect is something that you're going to experience. The principals will call you not because they're thinking about hiring a staff member, it's because they needed one yesterday and they're in panic mode. And then you go through the process, you get that principal onboarded, you get the job description posted, approved, and 48 hours later, they're messaging you going, where's my candidates? Why is this taking so long? Well, Mrs. Smith, if you remember, you just approved your job description 2 days ago, and we still need to do X, Y, and Z. I understand your urgency, and we're on it. We're all over it, and we're going to find you the best possible candidate we can. This is a full-time commitment. I started my business when I was fully employed. But the business originally started as back in 2010 as a fractional management business, which means that we helped individuals who maybe had a secondary home, tertiary home, or had they didn't have a large enough home to need full-time support. So we provided fractional management support for them. We also developed a household manual policy, their development system, where we would go in and draft household manuals for the employers. And then the third division was education. Well, out of those three original divisions established in 2010, one still remains the same, and that is the education division. The fractional division went by the wayside because time demands. It was too difficult to have multiple clients and be teaching amongst and run the business. So we had to get rid of that. And the manual writing business was nice, but it was also taking too much time and preventing us from really cultivating other services. And the principals usually find out how much it costs for someone else to draft one of these manuals for them. And like, oh, yeah, no, we're going to have our professionals do that. Yeah, absolutely. Now it's my time to educate you on what it takes to write one of these manuals. Because they're all, again, expectations, reality. We want this manual written in 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Hold on. Impossible. Well, what do you mean? You're just collecting some information. Well, here are 3-4 pages of an a manual index. What are these are important to you? Because this is what goes into a manual. That's what proves to them, oh my God, there's a lot. This is a full-time job. And when you start getting into recruitment, especially, question for you. One, if you're at work, how are you going to conduct interviews? So if you're on your nanny job or you are on your house manager job or you're doing something else, when are you supposed to make time to be private and have confidential interviews without somebody else being around? Well, really tough to do when you're at a principal's house. Sometimes we already struggle with, my housekeeper just seems like they're on their phone all the time. Or I can never get my house manager, to pay attention when I need them. Well, add in something like this and you're shooting yourself in the foot. And you're going to start off creating a negative, a bad taste in people's mouth when it comes to your services and what you offer. Now, there is some Novocaine to this. Is one, know your market. Know your local area and know the positions that you are staffing. That's going to help you with that gray list and blacklist that we were talking about. If you know the people in your area and you know the professionals and you're talking with them, you're going to discover who the clients are that you're going to want to avoid, because you are not going to walk in and save the day. I know that because I thought I could do that in my professional career. Yeah, I was wholly wrong. You're not changing their mindset. You're not going to change their mind on anything. You are just going to have to let it fail sometimes. So know your market and educate. And if they are not willing to listen, well, what do? We say, thank you very much. I really wish I could help you. Here's a few agencies that might be able to help you with your needs. By the way, those agencies are usually agencies I don't like. I'm sending them to them. You go deal with them, not me. I'm not going to send them to my colleagues. You do need to maintain consistent communication with these principals. That is going to be what helps mitigate the time warp. Minimum once a week check-ins. Hey, we have this many, we're doing this, we should expect this in the coming week. I was told by a colleague, not in the industry, have you ever thought about, and I was doing Friday emails and trying to get them out at the last minute. And I was always like, oh my gosh, panic. Started sending them out on Mondays. It actually had a really positive impact because one, I already have admin time blocked out on Mondays, but two, now the principal understands what to do for that week or what to expect for that week. So we have a little bit, we're anticipating, we're being anticipatory. The retainer fee is what will help you with those multiple agency listings. Multiple agency listings become a problem because, so if I have another agency, one of my colleagues, DM Estate Staffing, Daniel Wood, Jenny Vaughn, amazing people. If they submit a candidate yesterday and I submit the candidate and the principals say, you know what, I don't like them. I submit that same candidate 2 days later and the principals like my presentation and decide to use them or decide to interview them and hire them. Well, guess who gets that placement fee? It's not me. It's DM Estate Staffing because they presented that candidate first. So you get people rushing to market, rush to put candidates, screening declines. It's not good for anybody. So we implemented a retainer fee. We have a retainer fee. If you give us exclusivity to this position for the first X amount of time, we will waive that retainer fee. Because really by the time I get to that period is when I'm calling in help anyway. So the retainer fee is a great way to help at least compensate you for the time that you're going to invest. By the way, never write a job description or never do work on a principal's behalf until they've signed that agreement. Too many times have I invested in writing the job description thinking it would get me the business. Yeah, no, I just find that job description independently listed somewhere else by the principals. So hold your line. Educate the principal we talked about. Know and communicate that and educate. And if they're not willing to listen, turn around and walk away. Have your contracts and agreements reviewed annually. So we provide a lot of support documents to our clients and principals. And not only do we have them reviewed on a regular basis, but also on the document, we have in highlighted large font by deleting this section, you attest that you've had this reviewed by a lawyer and you no longer hold Estate Management Solutions accountable for the validity of this document in court. By the way, that is also on the liability release that they sign when they engage us. And if they choose to use our documents, they will not hold us liable. So they sign it on the agreement and then they have it on the document and they delete it. They now have double proof that this is up to you. So we cannot be held accountable. You can't sue us because your employee sued you for a bad contract. And of course, saying no. Saying no is the toughest thing that you're going to do, but is also one of the most empowering. And when you say yes, when you wanted to say no, I can almost guarantee you it's just not going to end well. You're compromising. Something's going to happen. Can't tell you what, because it depends on the situation. But we are the ones who have to be dynamic, and we're the ones who have to draw that firm line. I mean, we do have something called cognitive rigidity. And these principals, they get stuck in their mind what they want to do. So they make a decision and they don't look back. So if they're stuck in that cognitive rigidity, we have to communicate clearly and on their terms. But we also need to know when they're not negotiable. When they're not moving forward, they're not changing. They're not going to move forward or change on something else. And by the way, If you are looking to come into the ultra high net worth market and the high profile market, I strongly discourage you if you've never worked in a private home. There are unique sets of circumstances that before I got into the industry, I said, I can do this. I know this, no problem. And no matter how many times others told me, Peter, there's things you don't know. Hey, still, there's other things. Come on, I got this. Yeah, no, they were right. I was wrong. Many lessons learned that way, unfortunately. But that was my cognitive rigidity. Is I got this. You can, you can't. No, no, no. We're not changing them. We're not psychologists. We're not psychiatrists. We're not therapists. And if we try to pull any of that, they fire us immediately because that's not what we're hired for. So just understand there's a lot of circumstances that go into working for the ultra high net worth and the luxury market that if you haven't spent any time in these homes, I caution you ahead of time. Okay, so I told you about the time to cost ratio. Now, one, this is a high touch, low volume industry. We do not churn and burn. My numbers that I set is anything, before I hired staff, when I got to that 8 to 10 position range, I stopped taking on new clients. Because Robert Bowden was on our Clubhouse audio cast one time as a guest, and he said something that just rang like a gong. Simple statement: luxury cannot be mass produced. And at first I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But the more I thought about it, I was like, holy moly, there is so much accuracy in that simple statement. So high touch, low volume. You also have the pricing impact, the Veblen effect that ends up in market exclusion. When you cater to the luxury market, if they see Walmart prices, they think Walmart value. Go buy a bag at Walmart, go stick a different label on it, put it in Tory Burch, and they'll pay $10,000 for it. Not even asking. But that's the Veblen effect, that conspicuous consumption, where the higher priced goods seem more desirable. Well, the opposite of that and the negative implication of that is market exclusion, meaning those principles that you've had up until this time that you've been staffing nannies for, and there are of that mass affluence. When they see your prices, they're going to think, oh, wow, they're too expensive for me. I'm not going to call them. So know pick a lane. Because if you try to do two separate pricing models, you're only going like a dual pricing model. Now we established a 3-tiered pricing model for our principals to select from, which helps. But if you try to say, oh, well, for these, I do this, and for these, I do this, you're only going to be seen as one thing, and that is somebody that zip codes. Zip coding is a very common phrase for the ultra high net worth. They truly believe that because they live in a large home, everybody is charging them extra. Well, all you're doing is reinforcing that. So trying to come up with that dual pricing model is not going to work to your benefit. And you're going to hear that, oh my God, I can't believe I have to pay a housekeeper that much. That's ridiculous. Well, no, that's the market. And also the mechanics, we're not zip coding you. You have 20 AC units in your home. I've got 2. So of course it costs 10 times more for them to come over to your house. That probably costs 15 times more. Why? Because they need to wear booties. They need to cover the ladders. They need special equipment. They need to be special fall. There's all these unique circumstances that go into it, but they still claim zip coding. Aesthetics take time and it takes attention. And this one is really critical, and it's the small details that matter. If you're running a nanny agency and you have stock images on your website, that's fine. But if the stock images have the nanny running around in shorts and flip-flops, that's not the image that you want to portray. You want a nanny in a uniform that's playing with the kids. It's about the professionalism. It is aesthetics takes time and it's intentional. Communicate on their terms because it cannot be mass produced. You cannot send form emails. You can't send generic emails. They must be intimate and intentional because the mass communications don't represent themselves as a luxury product. So they are very single-minded and they see that and they're just going to, next agency. That was a form email. And especially don't add them to a mailing list. That will, that'll get you kicked to the curb in a heartbeat. Intentional communication that is intimate and directed at them. It's always good. Maybe have a list of maybe a Word document, Google document, or whatever program you use to have several texts listed out that you commonly answer, copy, paste, add in a few details, and then send. That's okay. But to just go into an applicant tracking system or MailChimp or something like that and just go, yes, in this form, click. Nope, not going to work for them. They're going to see it. They're going to walk the other way. The other fun part about this market is it's consistently inconsistent. We went December, January, and half of February without signing on a single client. Barely even got phone calls. Now, halfway through February, and until this point, it's been a deluge, absolute avalanche that we're struggling to kind of climb out of because high touch creates a bottleneck. So we're scrambling a little bit now because we have so many positions listed on the board. Feast or famine on a regular basis. To be prepared with something that helps in those in-between times. Because if you don't, you're going to make your first mistake. And that is compromising on the positions that you take. That's when you say, you know what, I don't have anything on the board. I need to talk. I'm going to go ahead and take this position. Don't do it. To get through the gates, this is the fun part. And this is very difficult. One, single family, multifamily offices. Those are your major target. Those are the ones who are guiding their principals. They're the trusted advisors of the principals financially. And they're the ones who will also get the phone call. I need help with this. Or it becomes the representative in that office states, I think it's time for you to do this and this with your staff. Why don't I connect you to estate management solutions to help guide you through that process? Because that's not our specialty. This also goes for real estate agents. Those of you who are thinking, oh, real estate agents are the door in. Not really. I have yet to get a single client from a real estate agent. And most of the time it's because they already have their network established and you can't compensate them financially because of real estate laws, ethics laws. So single family, multifamily offices, the private service professional networking. Those are the big ones. Go now. APNA's amazing convention is teaching you how to be an agency. The Estate Management Network, Private Service Alliance, local networking groups are teaching you about the professionals and what they have, what their expectations are and what's expected of them. So going to them, you're going to meet the professionals and guess who your future client is? Sometimes it's that professional. The EAs are also, they're the ones who have their principals here. They're the gatekeeper. So if you could get involved with an EA group out there, then that is a wonderful path in. Because the principals are going to be complaining about something. EA is going to, oh my God, I just met Peter the other day at this other networking group. We should call him in and ask his advice. It's going to take lots of time, lots and lots of time, but know your pitch. Know what it is that you do, answer those questions confidently, because if you don't, it's going to erode that trust. And they're going to, maybe we don't need them. We can do this on our own. So know your pitch. Some flags for you. Green flags, always great to see. Diligent and transparent communication. Do they know what they want? Are they responding to your emails and to your questions? Because this is a predictor. If they're not, how are they going to treat the professional? Intentional answers, meaning they don't just boom give an answer. Oh, that's an interesting question. There's a little thought that goes into that. I like to see that, because that means their brains are churning. We're going to clearly define their needs for them. Well, what about this? What about this? Is this important, or is this? Well, we're starting to overload our job description. We need to rein back some of these criteria in order to attract the right candidates. Well, what do you mean they can't? What do you mean they can't clean the house, cook us dinner, and watch the kids and pick us up at the airport all at the same time? Well, remember about knowing your you know what? Know how long it takes for a chef to cook for a family of four. Did you know it takes one chef 4 hours to cook a meal for a family of four? So if they're cooking dinner every day, well, that only leaves 20 hours a week. And if it takes one housekeeper 4 hours to clean 2,000 square feet, well, there goes your entire schedule. Haven't even done household management work or anything. Flexibility and grace with the principle and understanding. So when you are talking about these things and you're setting these expectations, are they receiving them warmly? Are they receiving them well? Or are they bad mouthing other old employees? I've had principals that I thought were great, and on the phone we're talking and they are just sitting there bemoaning their staffing experience and everything. And come to find out, yep, it was a sign of future things to come. They are not kind to their employees. They weren't just complaining to me, they were complaining to the employees about the other employees, and it created this whole thing of animosity, which I had to step in and say, principals, you cannot continue acting like this or we have to fire you. Not in so many words, but we did fire them. Can't help you if you're not going to create a positive environment for the professional. And then, of course, empathy and compassion. It's that's oh, they were just taking too much time off, and oh, well, did you see that they were in the hospital? Yeah, well, it's a shame, but we really need this support. Wow, that's mighty human of you. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. So, because the reason why we need to spot these is that as an agency, we have no control over how an employee is onboarded or how follow-up is conducted after hiring. We don't know if they're meeting with the professionals on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. We don't know if they're providing them with goalposts to reach. Well, asking these questions help you identify that and help you give them feedback and coaching on how to make sure that the first 90 days is successful, that guarantee period. And I think one of the most critical things is to listen to your gut. There's neurological science that has been studied and developed by this, that women are actually, they appear to be more intuitive in social and emotional contexts due to both biological and biology and socialization. Men tend to show stronger instinct responsive towards tasks and risk-based contexts. So for those ladies of you out there running an agency, get a gentleman to help you with some of this risk-based stuff. Guess what I did? I hired a bright young lady with a psychology degree to help with that female perspective. And she picks up on things that I just don't. There was a study from Grenada University back in 2009 that showed that women performed better on tasks requiring social intuition, such as detecting lies and emotional deception. So if it's there's studies done on it. I'm not just speculating. There's a reason why Mossad and the CIA hire majority female spies versus men. They have these instincts about them. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to embrace it and use it to my advantage. Some of your red flags: the number and tenure of previous employees in that position. It's a question I always ask. In the last 5 years, how many people have been in this role? How long have they lasted? And why have they failed? A lot of data there. Why have they failed? If they cannot give me firm answers, what's the common denominator? Them. If they can give me good, clear answers, this person just was never, started out really great communication, but it petered out and I rarely ever heard from them and they would never give us updates. Or this person was caught smoking. This person was caught, sleeping on the couch, whatever that is, and they can't give you firm answers as to why it didn't work. There's something else that they're not telling you. They're going to overestimate the capabilities of the professional, just like that iceberg, but they're going to also underestimate the time things take. When I tell a principal, it can take anywhere between 2 and 4 or 5 hours to go grocery shopping. What? It doesn't take that long. Really? When was the last time you went grocery shopping? Well, I mean, I haven't had in years. Yeah, but now I have 4 grocery stores I have to go to. I've got to go to these 4 ones. I got to wait in line at each of them. Sometimes wait in line at the deli counter, the meat counter, and wherever it is. It takes this long. So they underestimate the time that it takes. That's that education part of things. New principals are going to occasionally just not know how to act and how to behave around their professionals. If you get a principal who's never had staff before, ask them some very key questions. Are you ready to have someone in your house, a stranger in your house all day long underfoot? Are you ready to give over the power that you currently have in decision-making to this professional? Because I don't want to put a professional in there only for that principal to go, oh my God, I had no idea that I would never get any privacy. Yeah, that's having an employee in your home. And when so the new principals, they take special handholding. Legacy professional or principals, the ones that have multi-generational money, tend to be a little bit easier because they know what they want, but it's often you're not going to be talking to the principal themselves. You're going to be working with the family office, which leads to another set of circumstances of, is this person, is the family office, the employees that I'm speaking to, are they telling me the truth, or are they telling me what they need to as a part of their non-disclosure agreement, non-disparagement? So it takes a lot of dissecting. The household manager, see it all the time. Housekeeper with a family for 15, 20 years, they gave her the honorary title of household manager. And you start asking about household manuals or vendor management, and they have no idea. And you're going to have to break the bad news to them that you're not ready to be a household manager. There's still a lot for you to know. But my last principals did. They loved you, and that's why they gave you the title. Other red flag is if that principal starts negotiating the terms of your contract, because current actions predict future behavior. There are half a dozen or more studies on this exact statement: behavioral psychology, cognitive psychology, social psychology, personality, theory of planning behavior, predictive analysis, behavioral economics, industry organization psychology, and developmental psychology. Current actions predict future behavior. I am analyzing the professional and the principal as they come in to check for potential red flags. If they're going to negotiate your terms of your agreement, I want a longer placement term. I want a lower placement fee. I want you to add this in. Well, when it comes time for that professional to get their annual update, or when it comes time for them to pay their placement fee, guess what they're going to do? They're going to negotiate their way out of it. So if you start negotiating your terms now, you have given them the stamp of approval to do it later. There are some things I may waiver on. If it's an existing client, I'll extend my placement period because I know that client now and I can trust that client to do what's right. But if you're going to start negotiating with me on my contract, I'm good. Thank you. Have a nice day. Because I've got too much work ahead of me to do for this. I'm not going to sit here and go back and forth with you. So we talked about doing what you know and know what you do. Just be expected to do it all. Stay in your lane though. If you haven't been in a luxury home, you're going to miss a lot of things when trying to screen for the right principal, screen the principal to put the right candidate in there. Set expectations early and define those boundaries softly. Do what you're good at. Don't chase the money for money's sake. The principals will be able to tell that you are. And as I love to say, soft skills delivered disingenuously will erode trust. So be confident in yourself. Advocate for the professional and because they're your future client. You put an estate manager in a position and they love their interaction with you and how you handled it. Who are they going to call when they need another employee? They're going to call you because that's who they trust. So professional, the EA, these are the people that are going to call you. Develop those relationships. If there is an EA or PA in place, always, always, always CC them on every single email. Because as soon as you don't, they're going to come back and say, well, I never got this. Yeah, here it is from your EA. Invest in the industry and the professional. And if there's no local network near you, create one. There's associations out there that want to open up a branch in your area. Or if you live in a small area and you're in a smaller market, have a happy hour, host a happy hour, host coffee. Hey, I'll be at this place from this time to this time. First drinks on me. Come and have a seat. Let's talk. Did that a lot in the last several years, and it's increased the number of professionals in my database. It's also increased the number of phone calls I get because those professionals call me. Also, know your why. Remember your why. Being in private service at this level is demanding. It is exhausting. And then sometimes the only thing that keeps me going and keeps me from going, F this, I'm out of here, is that passion for the professional and developing them and creating a better industry. I love this industry and that's why I keep doing it. But if you do it for the money, principals are going to read you like a book and they're going to use someone else. And the great news, everybody, is that's all I've got to offer for now. So one of my favorite phrases is that I do envision service as the act of giving in which one's own preconceptions are set aside for the preferences of the principals. While there is a lot of truth in that, there are also non-negotiables. Those are what you need to identify and hold your line. Say no when they start pushing back. And that is what's going to keep you sane in the long term. Because again, those positions in the slow times that I've taken because we've needed it, it's never wound up well. I usually find out that it's because, they're coming our way because 10 other agencies refuse to use them, or that, oh yes, fine. I'll list a housekeeper position at 25 instead of our standard 20 minimum 28. Yeah, that position turns to doo-doo before you know it. So,
All right.
Erica,
Peter,
any questions?
Lots of questions. So we have about 12 minutes, so we're going to rapid fire to you.
Okay.
Get through these pretty quickly. Denise says, what is your retainer fee and how long are you the exclusive agency with the client prior to them looking elsewhere?
Oh, you want me to release proprietary information, which I'm happy to. We charge a $2,500 retainer. And if you give us exclusivity for the first 60 days of the position after the job description has been approved, we will waive that retainer fee. If I see that job listed on another source or by another agency, I will be submitting you a invoice for the retainer fee. And if you cancel before the time is up, I will be sending you a retainer fee.
Love that. Sarah's asking and stated the following. She said, I started sending updates to clients with how many applicants we've gotten and how many I'm working on screening that week, but sometimes I think they get their hopes up and then I have to let them down when the candidate doesn't push through. Do you have suggestions on both keeping them updated on the search, but not disappointing them when certain candidates don't work out?
Provide better data on the candidates. Where are they in the pipeline? And put in there, I've got these two candidates, we've interviewed 100, we boiled it, or we screened 100 resumes, we boiled it down to 10 interviews. I've got two really phenomenal ones we're working through the process. Yes, they're going to get their hopes up. But if that candidate pulls, the first thing I do is go to the principal and I say, darn it, one of those two that we were really hoping just pulled because they got a better offer that we just wouldn't be able to compete with.
Yeah. Denise asked, and as did Lisa, where did you get your statistics from in regards to like the high net worth clients versus ultra high net worth and so forth and so on?
That is from a variety of resources, which includes, let's see here, let me just pull that up. We've got, I know some of it came from the Family Office Exchange, JP Morgan Private Wealth, Deloitte Private, UBS, WealthX, Boston Consulting, Credit Suisse. So several high net worth banks, several of these wealth managers collecting that data, and this is what is commonly accepted amongst them all.
Wonderful. Sarah also asked, how do you handle situations where the other employees in the home are not supporting the search for a new hire?
One of the things, so during my principal intake, we are asking what other employees are in the home. Have you considered any of those other employees for this role? And have you had a discussion that somebody is coming in for this role? And based on their answers, where I take it next. But if I know it's impossible for me to tell if an employee is going to be an obstacle or not. So I provide the tools to the professional to ask the questions about legacy employees. I may ask the principal, okay, are there any untouchables, legacy untouchables? And if they say, yes, we love this person, been with us for 30 years. My question to them is, if this new hire brings you someone or is there and has done their assessment and 90 days are up and they present you with proof that this person is being toxic and having nothing but a negative impact on their desires to implement, are you willing to get rid of that employee? If you say no, I'm going to tell the professional, you have a legacy employee that you may have a challenge with, and I'm going to coach the employee through that. And maybe go back to the principal and say, look, you wanted John, Susan to do A, B, and C. On their current path, they will never get that done because this person is preventing that from happening. If you want this person to succeed, principals, you have to change or you have to step in.
Wonderful. Denise is asking, how are you handling exempt positions? For example, exempt meaning I want someone, or their principal wants someone 24/7 availability, 7 days a week. I want them to live local. If I call on them on their day off to work on a project, say on a Sunday, I want them to come in. If the PSP doesn't show up, then they get fired because they were hired to work 24/7. How would you speak to them? How would you handle that? And how do you suggest changing an industry that continues to say okay to 24/7 availability, 7 days a week?
So if there's a professional that wants to work 24/7, you have somebody to fill that role.
Right.
And I've always said this, there's going to be jobs out there that some people wouldn't touch with the 10-foot pole. There's going to be somebody else is going to love and be perfect for that job. So as far as exempt, my job as a consultant, as an agency, is to educate and coach the principal. but at the end of the day, they're not my employee. I can tell you that a house manager does not fall under exempt status according to the administrative standards of the Fair Labor Standards Act. So they are not an exempt employee, Mr. Principal. You really should be doing this. No, 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 we won't put them on salary. Okay, my job's done. I've advised. Also, the professional that is bemoaning, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not going to show up. If you don't show up, even I would fire you because I expected you to be there. I've outlined in the job description my expectations. We've had this conversation. You've gone through the interview and now you just don't show up. That's a professional issue, not a you issue, because communicate clearly to both parties and what the expectations are. A professional is somebody that goes in and addresses the solutions, comes up with problem, or addresses the problem, comes up with solutions. A domestic worker is going to go in and just say, oh, no, this isn't working, I'm leaving. And they're gone. So hire professionals and get professionals in those jobs. My early career, I wouldn't mind working 24/7. I'm okay with it because I had loved what I did. Now, later on in life, as I advance through my career, I start drawing soft boundaries. My phone gets put on do not disturb at 9:30 and gets picked up and goes off at 7:30. Anything that goes on during those times, just text me and I'll address it. If it's a blood, flood, or fire event, you call me and I'm there. But if you abuse that too much, you get on auto reject. It's about
Wonderful.
defining my lines.
That's really, really insightful. Kate is saying the Bay Area has multiple households with turnover and client site restructuring, while the candidates cite toxicity. What is your tactic for appropriately understanding the truth?
I have asked that question from several of my colleagues as well. And it's, there's three sides to every story. Party one, party two, and the truth. It can be very difficult to cite the truth. Now, I always try to look for consistencies. What are the consistencies? If it's toxic employees, it's still the principal's problem because they're not getting rid of the toxic employees and they're not listening to the agencies. They've burned through several agencies. Well, the only way to avoid being put in that situation is to avoid that home. Don't even place for them.
Well, there you go. Ms. Ellen says, how do you assess a candidate's ability to work with high profile families?
It is all about the soft skills. I am putting several things in place. I used to put 3 questions at the bottom of every job description and ask them to answer it when they're applying. And simple questions. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite flower? What's the last book you read? I had to eliminate that because it was removing like 90+% of the candidates. They didn't read it. Reading job descriptions is something that professionals, for some reason, are just blanking on. They're not doing it.
Yeah.
So there's things like that. There's also how well do they communicate? How do they respond when I'm giving them critique on their resume or on their presentation? It is about assessing them and how they're engaging with me. I try to get them to feel as comfortable as possible and drop their guard and show me who they genuinely are rather than who they are in an interview.
Yeah, great. That's a great tip. Kate is asking, have you experienced clients wanting to hire full-time as 1099s when it should be W-2? And how do you typically handle that?
Mr. and Mrs. Klein, I'm sorry, but legally, according to IRS 926, private service professionals and domestic workers are viewed as W-2 employees. Here's those documents. If you're willing to do that, we'd be happy to provide you resources like GTM, Homework Solutions that specialize in private service employment. And we'll get you connected with them so you can offer W-2 employment. But until that happens, I'm sorry, but we cannot help you.
Ellen, last question is asking, what resources do you feel are available to attract top tier candidates?
There's several. There's one, of course, the biggest one out there, estatejobs.com. David Gonzalez, estatejobs.com. That's where I post every single non-housekeeper position that we get in. And so there's that. They're on LinkedIn. So Meta is great for the homeowner. LinkedIn is where you want to be for the professional, but also those networking groups. Go to the Estate Management Network conference. I think she just announced it for September. Go to the if Private Service Alliance offers something, go to a local networking group and start talking to the professionals. That's going to help you identify who's good, who's bad. And also pay attention to LinkedIn. How someone is answering and commenting on LinkedIn will tell you a lot about what their future behavior is going to be. I have a nice little list of professionals that will not be represented by Estate Management Solutions because all I see out of them is negativity on social media. Well,
No.
sorry, can't work with you.
Absolutely. We're going to get ready to close out. I see we have a few more questions. We're going to go ahead and close it out for everyone else who's needing to hop off. And then for those who are left on, if you'd like to, we can shoot these questions to Peter really quick if he's willing to stay on for a few minutes.
Absolutely happy to.
And get that over for you. A couple of housekeeping things. Please join us on April 30th for our next APNA helpline. We'll be having Jamie Dennis on and Kim Wineblood talking about all things conference and answering any questions you may have. Our next think tank, if you haven't been to one, it's pretty awesome, will be on April 17th. So it'll be our first one for 2025. Come collaborate, troubleshoot with us, network with us, and just spend that hour trying to source some solutions to some problems maybe we're all experiencing. Once again, I really appreciate all of your time today. Thank you to each and every human who decided to jump on with us today and to learn and to expand your knowledge and to grow with us. We wish you all the best in your business and in your world. We look forward to seeing you again on April 17th. And for those who would like to hop off, you're more than welcome to, and we'll answer or shoot these last few questions over to Peter for everyone else that is staying on.